Always been here. It almost seems like yesterday. Hard to picture. It's the little things that slip away. Built with blisters, but they find a way to take a little bit. They won't find us if you believe in it. If you believe in it. How long can we keep holding on? How long can we keep holding on? A house on fire, burning all the past away.
All right, guys, welcome to this evening's Audio Workstations live stream session. We've got some really cool work ahead of us. First of all, I want to point out something that one of your classmates actually put into chat, and so if you joined us late, you might have actually missed that. This is actually a really cool point. Brian had mentioned that some people were asking about there's an accompanying, it's either a CD or DVD that would normally come with your book if you actually bought a hard copy. In other words, your Pro Tools Ignite book that you should have received an email to your personal email address, your Full Sail email address from McGraw-Hill giving you codes, letting you know how to get that materials. There is usually, if you buy the hardware version, an adjoining CD, DVD. We don't actually use it in this course. It's actually really good materials to have as a second reference, and there's no way that it could hold you back by using it. It would actually help you. I think most students find that with the workload that we already give you, there's really not enough time to do the exercises on the CD and DVD that they give you for the book. But then again, if you don't have a family or a full-time job, then maybe you could take advantage of those materials. And that link, Brian already posted it. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the site here and just repost that same link. And again, Brian, I appreciate you pointing that out because I was not aware that that was there. There was actually a link contained in an email that I sent you guys the very first week of class. But in the event you missed that link, not a big deal. Here is the link. And again, this is courtesy of Brian. So thanks for finding that, Brian. This is actually the company that is distributing your materials to you. I believe this is a distribution company, whereas McGraw-Hill is going to be the publisher. So, but as you can see, again, these are just supplemental materials. These aren't materials that you would have to complete this course at all. And again, it's just materials that would normally come with the book itself. And since you guys have a locked PDF version, there was a link that I gave you guys in the opening email. But then again, if you don't have that link or you don't have the email, here's a second opportunity for you to get those materials. So cool, awesome. Now, I'm going to have to actually, I want to stop for a second because what I want to do is I want you guys to go to indavamusic.com and then click on the Opportunities tab. And since I already have an account with them, I've downloaded all of these files. So it's kind of hard for me to see what files are available for you guys. So if you guys would take a moment and log into indavamusic.com, and then again, click on this Opportunities tab. And then any of these that you see here, you can fast forward to them or go back to the one that you just saw, that kind of deal. But go back and actually look at each one of these and tell me which one of these are actually open for remix opportunities. Let's see here. Oh, looks like we do have some other materials that we could actually use. Here's something brand new, so maybe we might switch it up this evening. Let's take a look and see what we got. Oh, this is perfect now. This is something I wasn't able to show you guys last week because I had already downloaded all of the files. So this will actually allow me to show you how to download the files. Okay, so someone's mentioning there are 3 available. Okay. All right. So cool. If you guys find any of the others, go ahead and post it in the chat section here. And so what I'm going to do first is I like to audition the song to kind of see what the original's like, because that sometimes will influence me on and I usually am listening to the vocals, and I'm usually listening to the tempo, and I'm trying to think what I would do with this song. Sometimes I can see myself working on it, and sometimes it's just something that I wouldn't be interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a listen here. Let's see what we got.
Say she wanna work out, she tired of the 9 to 5. So much you beat me overdrive. I make you blind it overtime. Me, my love keep her alive. Money, she a fantasize. Cause she live off this style and she live off this smile. To give me 3 cars so nice. Oh, yeah, let me see the application. Make me cry, oh. You know you fit different vision. From the first time I saw you, let me see your application. Let me enjoy you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you, she want to come from my side. Most people say she don't have no trouble. But that could have caused a little trouble. Because my trouble, you have to be a double. Oh, yeah, pretty cool materials here. What I'm going to do for right now is I'm in the event that you have not seen how to get these files, understand that when you show up to these live stream sessions like this evening, we are going to hope that you have already watched the lectures. The lectures are required viewings, and if you watch those lectures in advance of showing up to these live stream sessions that we have, you're going to be right on point with what we're doing, because we're basically just building on each week we're working on your final project. So last week we showed you guys how to get the files. In fact, there weren't any contests open, so I'm going to show you that right now. So notice here I have to enter opportunity. And remember, you guys actually have 3 of these, 3 free. So if you've already used one, you only have 2 left. They show little key emblems, and that means you have 3 different artists that you can download all their files. So one thing I want to take a look here is, let's see, we can't actually get to the files yet because I have to enter the opportunity. Once I enter the opportunity, there's going to be some legal jargon. It looks like I'm going to need to log in with my Facebook. Let's go ahead and do that now. And this is not my standard account. Not sure why this one came up. Interesting. I'm going to log out. This actually logged me into the wrong account. Let's try again. Okay, cool. We'll get back to opportunities now. Let's go take a look. Here's Egyptian. Into the opportunity. Here's a bunch of legal jargon. You're more than welcome to go through and read it. Obviously, I'm not going to waste our class time this evening to read any of this. It's basically stuff for our scum-sucking lawyers that'll come out and sue you if you try to take off and sell any of these materials. So just understand that you are not going to go and try to sell this or represent this as being your work. It is copyright material that they are giving to you to submit towards a remix contest winning opportunity. And so just understand that once you click this, you are obligating yourself to any liability should you try to use this in a performance, a paid performance of any kind, or try to sell it. All right, accept and continue. Cool. Now, down at the bottom here, now notice all of a sudden this says submit your track. I no longer have the opportunity to enter into the opportunity. I've now used one of my opportunities. I happen to have a paid account. It's $50 a year. Sometimes they offer a discount of half price, so $25 for the year, and that means you can download any of the artist files.
You guys don't have to do that for this class. If it's something that you feel like you're going to do a lot, you want to get really good at becoming a remix artist, then it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and pay the price. But for this class, remember, you don't have to pay for it. You just simply need to create a brand new free account. Notice here you have all the different stems here. So notice here we have the drums, the bass, the vocals, and the keyboards. So that's basically all they gave us. We could download the individual stems. We could audition the individual stems. But let's go ahead and download all the stems at once. Now, when this download process starts, it's going to my downloads folder. I can see the download progress here in the background. It's showing me how long it'll take before I actually have these files. And notice the name of the file that it's done in that zip. I'm going to end up going back and renaming this the actual correct artist name and song name. I'm also going to take these files and put them into a safe location so that in the event that I don't want to work on these files now, I'll be able to get to them later. It's not uncommon for you to start working on something and just realize that you've painted yourself into a corner, especially on a final assignment like this, and should you want to choose to switch it up and use other files, well, then you'll have these other files. One thing I do want to point out that's really important, if for some reason I leave this window, I cannot get back to this window to download the files. So keep that in mind. I just got a warning via the GoToTraining site. Did you guys get an audio dropout? Okay, cool. I just had some weird prompt come up through my control panel handler. But as long as you guys have me, we're good to go. Okay, so the files are almost downloaded, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm going to do with these. First, let me remember the name of the artist. It's Egyptian, I believe, but I didn't remember the song name. So while that is doing its magic, let's go find that information out. Okay, the song's called Overtime, and the artist is Egyptian. Now, there's some other important information that I'm actually going to add to this file, the file that I just downloaded that has all the stems. I'm going to go change the name. I'm also going to add in some other information that will be important for me at a later date. It's not super important for me today, but should I not be able to get back to these files ever, I want to have the information. I want to be able to have the beats per minute and the actual key signature of the song. So we got here B flat major, and it's 95 beats per minute. So I'm actually going to add that into the file name. So this information will be important that I go ahead and get that stored away for another day. So let's hide Safari for right now. I'm also going to hide Pro Tools. We don't really need Pro Tools running. So we'll just hide that for right now. Now let's go find those files. Those files are in my Downloads folder. For right now, I'm just going to pull them out of this folder just to name them real quick. And I don't need that premium part on here. We'll leave Egyptian on there, although I'm going to end up capitalizing it so that it's correct. Song is called Overtime. And the rest of this information I really don't need. So we're going to end up adding in our own information there in a moment. Okay, cool. So let's put in the beats per minute, BPM. And what you know, I've already forgotten. I think it was 81 beats per minute. 95. Awesome, thanks. And it was B flat major. Okay, cool. Now I'll show you where I usually put these files. And I have a separate folder where I keep the original raw files from where I keep my Pro Tools sessions. So I've gone over here into my musics folder, and I've created an artist remix files. And this is where I store all those files. Now, should I want to import them from Pro Tools, then I'll create my Pro Tools session in a totally different location. So here's the original remix files that we just downloaded. I'm going to store my Pro Tools session here, but I'll point it back to import the files from here. And you always want to make sure you copy your files. You don't want to just add the files. If you add the files into your Pro Tools session, the audio files really are not in the session. They actually are located in the original location. So you want to get in the habit of always copying your files. Now, just a quick introduction onto what you would do beyond that. And I'm not sure that we'll probably work on this song because I already got started on a song with you guys last week, but I just kind of want to show you guys some of the initial stuff, the initial setup. If you missed any of last week, we'll just kind of get you up to speed, and then we'll kind of pick up from there. So consider this little first 20 minutes here a little bit of a refresh. So I'm going to go back and we'll open up Pro Tools here. I'm going to close my original session. Sure, what the heck, we'll save it. Let's create a brand new session. But before I create that brand new session, since I'm going to use that artist information, I'm going to go back to that folder, and I'm just going to copy and paste. So here's Egyptian. So I just highlight Egyptian Overtime. Cool. Command C to copy. We'll go back to Pro Tools, Command N to create a brand new session. We'll make a 32-bit session. I'm fine with that. 44.1 for our sample rate. Get in the habit of using stereo mixed. Now Pro Tools is saying, well, where do you want to store this? It's back into that Pro Tools folder that I showed you. If you want to see the full hierarchy, it's simply here you go. Music. Here's where the original files are located, but I want to save my session here. And then we'll give the session a name. Command V. We'll just paste it. Egyptian Overtime. Cool. Save it. And now it's time to import those files. Shift Command I to import. We'll go back to the artist and remix files. I'll go back into our Egyptian. Cool. And let's import the files. I'll select them all. And notice I don't want to use add. I actually want to use copy. Cool. It adds them to the second column. Once it's done that, you go ahead and hit done. It's saying, where do you want to store these? It's storing them back into the default audio files folder of your session. So you can simply hit open. And Pro Tools is now processing these audio files. What it's really doing is upsampling them up to 32-bit. I believe the original files were going to be 16-bit, but it had to convert the files into the session file format. So that's what's going on there. I had the option of sending them to the clips list. I'm going to create a brand new track. We're going to end up doing that anyway, so why not do it now? Now, here are the files. You can see them getting rendered out. We'll go ahead and resize my track so we can see them nice and big. I'm going to create a click track because I want to see if this really does follow the tempo. This is one of the first things we showed you guys last week. If you go to your tracks menu, you go create click track. It creates a mono aux track and places the click plugin on there. I just thought of something. I don't have my Keycaster turned on, so let me turn that on for you guys. Command A. Keycaster is going to allow you guys to see my quick keys. That way, should I be kind of flying around here, that you'll be able to see what's going on here. Let's see. Kevin had a question. How do you change your save menu? Kevin, I have a feeling you're talking about the difference between save, save as, and save copy in. Is that what you're asking? I'm really not sure if I understand what the question is. Your save menu for more options. Are you talking about your new session dialog? Because your save options are this. You have the option to save, just a Command S, right? I just saved my session, so we've got all this work in there. I can do a save as file, save as, and we'll call this V2 for version 2. Cool. You can see the session's now updated there. We can hide Pro Tools. We go back and we look at the location of where the session's at. Music, Pro Tools, Egyptian. You can see we have the original session file that I saved with, and we have the save as version. Now, if you wanted to do an archive, that would be save copy in. Save copy in, check off all audio files. I'm going to store this one on my desktop. If I actually needed to go back a version, you could go back to older versions. This isn't really that important now, but once Pro Tools 11 comes out, that'll be important. Please don't anybody in this course use Pro Tools 11. I don't have it, so if you do any of your work in Pro Tools 11, I won't be able to open it. This course is currently not utilizing Pro Tools 11. It's only using versions 8, 9, and 10. We'll go ahead and hit OK. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. I'm going to save it back to my desktop to just show you here. We'll get rid of the name copy of. And this is basically going to create a brand new archive. It'll create a brand new session folder with a brand new session file, plus new audio files that'll be now there on my desktop. This would be the process basically that you would do when you're done with your project. So this is basically an effective archive. If you're going to go work in another studio, you want to do a save copy in, make sure you burn down the save copy in version and take that with you. That way you have all your audio files. Let me see here. I think I might have missed a question. Options, the drop-down arrow when you created the track to name it. or save menu when you open Pro Tools. Default is small. You know, I'm really not sure if I quite understand your question here. It says the drop-down arrow when you created the session to name. If you want, I'll create another brand new session here in a moment. Before I do that, though, notice what version of this session I'm in. When I did that save copy in version, we're still in the old original session. The save copy in is on my desktop right now. We're going to hide Pro Tools. So if I want to be in this session, I'd actually have to close the existing session that I'm using and then go open this session to be in this session. But if you open this up, notice it has its brand new session folder with brand new session files, and then it copied the audio files that we had as well. So I thought that was what you were asking about. If not, I tell you what, just hang on to that question, and at the end of class, we'll go through and we'll answer any of your questions. I apologize if I misunderstood anything that you're asking. Okay, now I created a click track in this session because right now, let's move our transport out of the way. Command 1 will show and hide your transport. Again, you have to have a full numeric keypad to do that function. If we actually play this back right now with the click track playing in the background, you're going to hear that the tempos don't match up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo out the drums. So we're just hearing drums with the click track. That way you'll hear the difference. Yeah, it's a mess. That's because it's not the right tempo. So the session default for the tempo is 120 beats per minute. We actually need to change that. So if we go over and we control click on our tempo field, I believe one of our classmates said it was 95 beats per minute. And hopefully, if the session lines up correctly, then this should resolve our issue. If not, we'll have some more wrangling we'll have to do. Let's listen to it. All right, cool. We obviously can hear that our session's now lined up. Now, the cool thing about this is now that you have Pro Tools Grid correct, there's some really cool stuff you can do with it. I mean, I could start rearranging these drums. I think you guys saw me do that last week. But I actually want to show you some other cool things. Now, I said something last week. I made a blanket statement. I said there's nothing sexy about the grid in Pro Tools. And what I meant by that, let's take a look at this. All right, we got a bunch of lines here. Nothing really sexy about the grid inside of Pro Tools. I mean, we've all seen a grid before, but it's one of the more important features that you're going to be doing inside of a DAW is actually having control over the music. To have control over the music, you have to have a defined grid that follows the tempo of the music. For instance, notice here that I'm zoomed in. I just created the blank tracks there so you guys can see the grid. There's nothing really sexy about the grid, except for when you have a grid that now locks up. So for instance, if I wanted to make sure that the song was going to work throughout the entire song here, let's grab a 1-bar increment. I just used grid mode, used my selector tool, 1-bar increment, and the click track at the end of the song here should be dead on, just like it was in the beginning. And if it's not, that means there's a tempo change or something sways throughout the song. Let's listen to it. Notice I have loop playback engaged. You can right-click to turn on loop playback. You can also hit the numeric key 4 to turn loop playback on. So if my click track plays back with this selection here, Option F will center my selection. If this click track plays back and this is in sync, which I can see pretty much by viewing it that it will, then I'll be able to start taking this song apart and putting it back together. Let's listen to it. Let's just do it with just the drums. Yeah, it locks up, so that's great. That means I can really start sinking my teeth into this material. I can start doing some things to this drums that weren't even in the original. At the beginning of the song, they have these little kind of introduction drums that are coming in here, just through this section here. Got 4 bars of them if we listen to it. I'm not really a fan of these drums. If you listen to them, they don't really do a whole lot for the song. I know they're just trying to introduce the song, but these things sound kind of erratic. Now, I do really like these toms, though. These toms are some electronic sounding toms, and they sound pretty cool. But I don't really like the rest of this stuff, so I want to show you a couple things that Pro Tools can do that some other DAWs can't do. For instance, let's do this. Let's pull up just the drums for now. And check this out. I'm going to create 2 mono audio tracks. I'll show you why I'm going to do that. Because I'm going to cut out, I actually like these toms, but I don't like the rest of these drums. And I want to keep these toms, but notice here there's a late hit on the left-hand side of the file here. Well, Pro Tools uses multi-mono files as opposed to stereo interleaf files, which means if I take a stereo file and I cut it out and I pull it down to 2 mono tracks, I can actually edit these individually. Let's go back and change my grid resolution to 16th notes. And I don't like any of these drums here, so we can get rid of all of these. But what I was really focusing on was these toms. There's one little extra tom hit in here. I don't know if I need this one little guy in the bottom. Well, since I've pulled each file out, the left and right sides, you can see here down to mono tracks, it'll actually allow me to edit out that side and then put it back together. Let me solo it out and see if I even like that. But this one hit is what I'm concerned with. Actually, I don't think it's too bad. Let's actually listen to both sides together. You know what? I'm actually going to keep that little file there. I like it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to consolidate it. Let's drag it back up to its original location here. And I'm going to consolidate it, Shift-Option-3, paste it into one big long file so it's now 1 bar long. That'll just allow me to keep it later. We'll call it toms. I'm going to end up using these in this production here. Now, some kind of meatier drums can come in over here. So let's go ahead and let's get a 4-bar selection of these drums. I'm going to use my event edit area up top. Notice I'm hitting my / key on my numeric keypad. It allows me to cycle through my start, my end, and my length. So if I want exactly 4 bars, hit 4, enter it, Option F, and I'm now staring at 4 bars right where I need to take a look at. So we can now listen to this material back. Again, I'm going to solo it, so we're just listening to the drums. Yeah, it's not bad. It's got that dance hall thing going on. James Keaton called it rhythm. Rhythm is basically one of the first terminologies for dub reggae. So yeah, it's almost got like a dance hall dub feel to it. And I think we can pull some other materials in here to do some other cool things. First of all, though, I want to show you real quick. I'm going to get rid of all the drums except for this 1 bar that this 4 bars. And I wanted to, oops, I forgot to separate. That's okay. 4-bar selection, Command T, and I have the exact 4 bars that I need now. Command T is going to keep exactly what you have selected and get rid of everything else. Why did I do that? Because I want to give you a quick little demo of something you might have missed last week, and then I want to move forward and show you some other things. Notice that because we're in grid mode, we have the grid correct. Whenever I go to select drums, notice it selects the exact individual drum. So I could take this 4-bar phrase here and really start doing some other cool things to it. For instance, actually, let's leave the first bar alone and let's just do some other finagling with this. I'll take this first little kick, we'll duplicate it over again. Maybe we'll take some of these other little hits and duplicate these hits to make a little roll effect. After I've made that little roll effect, I'm going to paste it together, Shift-Option-3, create a little fade in on it. So basically this first one right here we've left alone. This guy is the same. So if you want to hear basically the difference between these two, here's basically what we just created. Totally different rhythm. So it's basically changing up the performance. And notice because I'm in grid mode, if we zoom in here, whenever I go to highlight something, it's grabbing that one individual drum hit, which allows me to then be really, really creative with pieces. Like for instance, we could create several duplications here and then consolidate these, Shift-Option-3, and create a little fade out. So this is going to kind of give it a delayed effect. Again, to kind of just go back and hear what we just did. There you go. And notice how it just works. I mean, just with the math alone, just the way it already currently is, you could also even take sections like this and reverse them. Go up to your audio suite, go down to other. We'll reverse a little section here. Maybe I'll reverse a couple of these hits. Maybe we'll reverse this one too. Maybe I'll go back and we'll consolidate this piece in here, Shift Option 3, and I'll just reverse a couple of these as well. Or maybe do the same thing here. Shift Option 3, and then maybe we will do a little reverse. Now this will kind of get weird because it's creating a little fade out. I tell you what, we won't do that one. I'll just do these first couple here. That's what we'll do. So again, it's just allowing you to be really creative. Oops, sorry. Pro Tools is the audio editing in Pro Tools is just incredible. We'll go ahead and listen to this real quick. So you can get really creative for that. I spent a lot of time on that last week, so I don't want to bore you guys. I want to show you guys some new stuff. So let's actually get back to our original song. And the reason why, I kind of already got started with that. We already got some other things going on the other track. I kind of wanted to just show you guys what you need to do to get yourself up and running. Plus, we're really not going to use a lot of these original files. I'm going to go and actually, in this other session we're going to use here this evening, I'm going to go and start just replacing things and getting rid of what's already there and start using some new materials. So let's open up all the tracks here in Pro Tools so we can see them all. Kind of see some of the stuff I did this evening so far. You know what? Before we jump over into another session, I want to go ahead and try some new things with this session. First of all, I'm going to get rid of all the drums entirely. I know it sounds crazy, but I want to show you guys there's some great materials that I want you guys to use, and I pointed them out to you last week, and I didn't get to use them last week, so we're going to use them this evening. We are going to hide this track and make it inactive so I don't have to hear it anymore. And I'm going to go back and I actually want to grab some materials that I pointed you guys into last week. To show you guys where those materials are again real quick, if you pull up your Avid account and you log into your Avid account, just showing you guys where I'm going to start using some files that you guys can use as well. It's 8.5 gigs worth of materials. You want to go to View My Product Details. Then whatever version of Pro Tools you currently have, it will be listed here in a second once you see my screen refresh. You see I have Pro Tools 10, so if you go to the download section, the loops that I'm about to use are these loops right here, Big Fish dance loops. We've got dance loops, hip hop, jazz, pop rock, R&B, funk, world loops. And I know one of these actually, it might be the world loops, actually has some reggae stuff in it. So then I can go and use those loops. Okay, awesome, Monica. Monica had a good suggestion as well. That's a lot faster. If you have your Pro Tools CDs, the installation discs, they already have these loops on that disc, so you might want to use that disc. That'll be a lot faster than trying to download them, depending on your download speed. And Nathaniel, you're saying your world loops wouldn't open. Go back and try to re-download it. I noticed if I tried to download all of these at once, I had errors like you're talking about. When I downloaded them one at a time and let them complete their download, then I didn't have any issues. So it's probably that you were just trying to download multiple of these files at once. And again, if the easiest way is if you have your original installation discs, that's the fastest way to get these because they'll rip right off the CD a lot faster than trying to download them. But I just want to show you guys where these files are because I'm going to start using them in this track right away, and then we'll jump over into our song that we're going to be working on as well. So we'll hide Safari. We'll get back over here into Pro Tools. Now, we've already shown you Shift-Command-I will bring up an import audio window. There's some also other ways of importing, and I know you guys are aware of them because you were tested on them on your PTA 1 last week. What are some other methods that I can use to import audio into Pro Tools? Excellent. Someone said the Finder. And Eric and Ryan have mentioned the Workspace. Now, the Finder is just basically Apple's name for the desktop. So yeah, if there are files on my desktop, I can import them just by dragging and dropping them. So I don't really have any files on my desktop. But basically, you can simply drag and drop an audio file into Pro Tools. All right, you can drag and drop here to the clips list or regions list. You can drag and drop to an available track. You can also drag over to the tracks list. Monica, cool. I'm going to show you guys the workspace here in a moment, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware there are multiple ways of importing audio. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's use the workspace. And the workspace is my favorite as well, and I'll show you why. Now, the workspace browser, I actually kind of like to leave a little space here at the bottom. And the reason for that is I like to use the workspace almost like my regions list off to the side here, and that I always want to be able to get to it. Option semicolon will bring up your workspace browser, but if you don't know the actual quick key for that, let me show you how to do that. If you go to your Windows menu, notice you have right here workspace. When you pull up workspace, this basically is showing you an image of your Finder, but it's basically an image of your Finder that has been cataloged by Pro Tools. Nathan's got a question. Can you import audio from a Beat Machine, or do you have to use loops provided? For this project, I'm totally keeping it wide open for you guys. You guys can use whatever materials you want. The reason that I'm going to use these materials that I'm about to show you is because these materials already have the tempo information in them, as well as the key signature information into these files. So for the purpose of writing creating a remix, I've just found some students feel challenged. They feel like we're pushing them too hard and that we're asking them to do too much musically and of that nature. You know, maybe you came into the school not having any kind of musical training at all. That's okay. I'm trying to show you some crutches and ways that you can still pull off really convincing and incredible remixes with just knowing how to use the files. The file types, what file types are going to have that information. So I'm giving you file types that have the tempo information as well as key signature information already embedded into them. So let me show you those files that I pointed out to you earlier, the artist remix files. So let's go back to my music folder. I have this artist remix files. That's where we have these files that we imported into Pro Tools. Here's where we have our Pro Tools sessions. That's where this current session actually resides. And then I have a separate location where I have my sounds and samples. Now, if this were the real world, and quite honestly, I do have a separate drive that I would usually keep all of these files onto, and it would be a FireWire drive. Just for the ease of this class, I am using the internal drive, which I do not recommend. I don't recommend you guys do what I'm doing currently, because at some point I'm going to overtax this hard drive, and it's gonna cause the drive to fail faster than it normally would. Because right now it's having to run the operating system. It's playing back audio files from the Pro Tools session. It's also going to use files from another folder. So the read-write head is going to be moving all over the place. So let me go back and show you this workspace, but I just want to show you where the folder hierarchy so you understand where I'm getting these files from. And if I look at my sounds and samples, I created an Avid Materials folder here that you can see. And here are all those files that we were looking at earlier. So if I look underneath my world, well, I tell you what, I want to do this through Pro Tools. We'll show you how Pro Tools actually gets to these materials. All right, we've got our workspace browser open, and again, that is Window, Workspace. And notice here there's an image of our Mac hard drive. So basically, we're going to go back and look inside the Mac drive. I'm going to go to my users account. There is me, John Berry. Here is my music folder. Looks like Pro Tools is taking a second to read that and scan it. Hopefully that's not the ball of death. Good, it's not. I'm going to hide this initial folder because we don't need it anymore. We're going to just be looking through our workspace now. I like to resize it, and I like to put mine over here to basically, for those of you that are used to using the Apple assets, I'm kind of doing a similar process here by pulling this off to the side and using this for my assets. So here I've got my sounds and samples. And here is my Avid Materials. Let's see. I could go to Dance DJ. I might go to R&B and Funk. But I'm going to start with World here and see what we have inside of World. Now, Understand most of my drum stuff is not going to have key information into it. Check it out. We got the Reggae Man. Here we go. So here we are. We're looking at the Workspace browser. Workspace browser has several different features that are very cool to it. One of the first ones being this icon up here. I've turned this on. It's a little metronome symbol. And this metronome symbol is going to allow these files, even though I haven't imported them into Pro Tools yet, I'm going to play back my Pro Tools session. And these files, as long as I audition them with the session playing, they will actually play back in the tempo of my session, even though I don't have them imported into my session yet. What that does is in the past, before the Workspace browser would allow you to do this, you would go import a bunch of loops that you would think would work, only to sit them inside of your music, and in the context of the song, they don't really work. Your mind just kind of thought they might work. So this allows me to kind of get rid of that one elimination process. And I probably won't use all of these anyways, but I'll just go through and audition them, and we're going to hear files play back in the same tempo. So let's go ahead and play the Pro Tools session back. I'll hit return, take me back to the beginning. We'll play the session. And I've already set it up so that if I select a file here, it automatically starts playing. And what I did was, if you right click up here, I've checked off loop preview, auto preview, and spacebar toggles on and off. That way all I have to do is select a file and it'll start playing. In fact, I can select a file using my arrow keys. So let's play back the session and let's hear these in tempo with the actual session itself.
Say she wanna work, cause she tired of the 9 to 5. So much she be in the overdrive, and me keep buying the overtime. My love keep her alive. Don't think she a fantasize, cause she live off me style, she live off me style. So baby she back and nice. Oh, yeah, let me see application. Make me imply. You know you fit the future. From the first time I saw you, let me see your application. Let me imply you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you, she won't come by my side. But she came and said she don't have no trouble. Thought that could have caused a little trouble. Gas my shovel, could have to be a double. Oh, she said she can't mix concrete, so she wanna be sure I will be. So me tell her to bend her back, girl. Only show me that jack, yeah, girl. Let me see her application. Make me imply you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you, let me see your application. Make me imply you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you.
Now, I'm not really finding any love with these files. So since I'm not really finding any love with these files, let's go back and find something else. Let's go find something that's a little more dance-oriented. These just aren't really hitting me. At least it's not fitting in with the context of what we've already got going. Why don't we try some R&B and funk and see if we can find something in here. Let's see here. Percussion? Yep, let's do it. Ooh, Congo or bongo? That might be kind of cool. Let's try out world percussion for right now. Not a lot to go by.
Say she wanna work, cause she tired of the 9 to 5. So me keep in the overdrive. And me keep on the overtime. In my love keep her alive. Money she a fantasize. Cause she love up me style and she love up me smile. The way me treat her so nice. Oh, girl, let me see application. Make me employ you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you. Let me see your application. Make me employ you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you. She want to come from my side. But she said she don't have no trouble. But she asked me to ask her if it's trouble. That's my trouble. Love to be a double. No, says she can't mix concrete. But she want to be sure I work for it. So make the life we been like. Yeah, well, she shut that down. Yeah, let me see the application. Make me employ. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you. Let me see your application. Let me employ. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you. Baby, we rock it. Like a dump duck, baby, we attack it. Like a country man, girl, me I gonna chop you like a ball and will score me, I gonna score you. Me I gonna think I make it right now you're twang it. And the things you make it talk and chat say. Make yourself one of those girls got to sink it. Squint your eyes, look round, and I want me. I like it. I like it, yeah. I love you, I love me, I like it. Oh, oh. First time I get it right, you have to be strong.
All right, I've got some drums now. In fact, just in a quick selection there, I was able to find some really cool stuff. When I went into this R&B section or that funk stuff, it actually really started sounding good. Now notice, because I had that cymbal, my metronome cymbal. Wow. I love this collection here that we're listening to. This is really, really cool. This is the funk drums. Man, these are some great sounding drums. But I noticed as going through these, and they really starting to beef up the track, they might not actually be fitting in the pocket really good with this artist, being that it was more of a dance hall beat. They're on the on and off just a little bit, but that's okay. With this metronome cymbal, whenever I imported these files, they actually automatically recognize the session's tempo and have now conformed to the session's tempo as well. So notice when we have any of these files here, you're going to hear that they already work the way they are. One of my favorite ones was just a really simple kick here. I think it was this one here. And that's going to be awesome for the intro of this song. So I know that's going to be my intro beat. So I'm going to go ahead and start naming these. Notice the file name that it gave it. It's a little bit funky because it was based off of the file name of what the file was originally named. So I'm just going to rename it intro beat. Just because it's going to work perfectly for the intro. I'll go ahead and change my grid resolution, change that to 1 bar increments. That way when I start moving things around, like if we pull all these guys back together, we see the song really looks like it starts taking off about here. So then our intro beat, oops, Command D, just to duplicate. You can see it's dead on at bar 3 to bar 5, so it works out perfectly. So that means if I'm going to use this other information, all these guys are going to have to come down a little bit. Since I'm in grid mode, notice they just lock up to grid. Now I've got to choose between these. So I want to go ahead and solo each one of these out and just listen to them real quick and see which one of these actually sound like they belong with this song. In fact, instead of soloing, I'm going to mute parts. Let's get rid of some items here in my mix window so I can see my entire mix. All right, cool. We've got that intro beat. I'm actually going to put the intro beat at the top. That just kind of helps me keep an idea of where things are at. And I usually like to build down from there. So in this process, we'll mute out any of the other drum parts that we're not using, that we can get an idea of what it sounds like in context with the music.
Hey, no, 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 no. Hey, no, 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 no.
fact, I don't like that beat at all. It's just hitting a little bit late, so we're going to delete it, get rid of it. I'm a big fan of getting rid of stuff immediately if it's not working.
Hey, no, 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 no. Hey, no, 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 no.
Not sure if I'm into that one either. It just seems to be laid back. Pull it up a little bit in the mix.
Hey, no, 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 no.
The problem with this one is it's a funk beat, and the hit is happening late, and he's already hitting early anyway, so that does not going to work either.
Hey, no, 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 no. Hey, no, 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 no.
I'm feeling that. That actually sounds pretty hot. So we're going to keep that one. I'll mute that and see what this next guy sounds like.
Hey, no, 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 no. Hey, no, 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 no. Hey, no, 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 no.
All right, cool. So we've got a couple loops here. Now, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to probably do a little bit of a rearrangement with these loops. That way I can kind of make them my own loop. So let's listen to what we got here. We're actually going to use this as a part A and a part B. So what I'm going to end up doing is just putting them on the same track together. We'll call this loop A. And we'll call it loop B. I'm going to take it back. You know what? I'm actually going to put them on separate tracks, and I'll show you why here in a minute. But so if we listen to what we basically have 8 bars of the song already built to go. I'm going to do a quick little rough mix on it, and then we're actually going to take apart this loop and actually turn these loops into our own loops by doing a little customization like you just saw us do last week. We're going to kind of perform some of the same procedures. But if we take a listen to what we got. Cool. Nice little bit there. In fact, I really like that we chose to call this one the intro loop because that's exactly what it is. Nice little intro loop there. What I want to do, though, is since both of these loops are the same for the intro loop, especially because this back end is now going to round into kind of a heavy hit, let's do some little tweaks to this. So Option F will center it and make it a little bit bigger. We're going to change it to 16th notes. In the main hit, I just want to listen to it because we're actually going to do a couple rolls with it. I'm just going to grab some pieces. I'm also noticing here it's a little bit lazy and it's intentional. Notice if we look at the grid, that hit is slightly off the grid, that hit is slightly off the grid. Pro Tools has some really cool features to where you can actually quantize your audio. Now, in this case, it's going to change the feel, but I want you to see what it does so that you can understand the power of what it does. For instance, I'm going to play this several times, and then I'm going to play it back being quantized, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. But I need you to at least get the feel of how this is shuffling slightly. Like I can see right there, just by putting my marker down, that is happening a little bit late to the beat. But it's the actual drummer is doing that intentionally. You're creating a feel. And I can sterilize this feel, but that might actually make it lose its vibe. But let's take a listen so you can see what I'm talking about. Cool, now you got the idea that's got a little bit of laziness to us. Here's what I want to show you what Pro Tools can do. We can go and we can actually analyze this. And I'm going to ask it to analyze it rhythmically. And then when I look at it, we can see at the analysis, and it shows us where it thinks everything's at. So it's basically giving us positions against the grid of where the drum hits really are. Well, I can use the features that I can use in MIDI. Option, this basically is a MIDI feature, but I can apply it to audio. So I just basically quantize the audio. But now if we go back and listen to this, you're going to notice the groove is gone a little bit. Let's listen to it. I'm going to undo it, Command Z. Hang on a second. Oh, that's not good. There we go. Sorry, guys. Go back and quantize it. Either way, I just want to show you can actually go and quantize your audio just like you can do MIDI, because Pro Tools will allow you to go back and analyze that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the month, but I just want to show you some other ways of cleaning things up. For instance, I know that if I apply the same principle to my funk drums, it's probably going to help me, and I'll show you why. I heard that there's definitely some spots in here where it's very, very loose. What do I mean by that? Well, let me get rid of some information here so we can get you a little bit more real estate space. I'm going to hide some items. Some items that we're really not using right now. Let's ask it to be minimal. It'll give me back some real estate. You can zoom in here. And now you can actually look at the grid as it plays back to hear where this is off slightly. It actually has a really cool feeling to it, but however, because of the way he's landing his no-no-nos, it's actually clashing a little bit. You can actually see if we actually set that beat next to his vocals, that might actually give you a good idea of what we're talking about here. So let's start renaming these tracks so I can tell what tracks are what. So this is Loop A. In fact, let's take the name from the track itself. Cancel, double click on the track, I'm sorry, the region, Command C. In fact, I should actually put a hyphen in there. All right, and then we'll just Command V to the track just to paste it, save me some time. Double click, Command V, bada bing, bada boom. If I want to do it, we can do it to the same track beneath it as well. Double click, Command C, okay, double click, cool. So let's apply the same principle to this, because you could actually hear, I actually like a little bit of that swing, but if we go through and we actually look at these hits compared to the grid, you can see a lot of these hits, especially this one here, they're late. So what we'll do is we'll ask it to analyze it rhythmically. If we want to look at the analysis view, you can. We'll apply some quantization to it. And notice I just tightened this up. It just moved all these hits over to the grid. If we go back and listen to it. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to do that to his vocals as well. We're actually going to tighten up his vocals. So if I set his vocals right above this track, this would actually give you a better idea of what it is I'm talking about. Look at on some of these lands here. Some of them he's early, some of them he's late. Well, let's take his performance and let's quantize him as well. Try to get him to tighten up a little bit. So we're going to actually ask him to be analyzed. If we turn on our process here, he is going to be monophonic because he's one voice. We'll go through and we'll look at the analysis, make sure there's not any extraneous analysis marks. That all looks pretty good. You basically want to make sure it's not cutting into, like, these guys here can go away. Goodbye, goodbye, because this is a big sustained held note. And that big, long, sustained held note doesn't need to be chopped up into little pieces and sustained. It just needs the attack. And if you look at the analysis, especially that note in particular, notice how off he is. I'm going to cruise down so you can see that very last note. That's one of the main offenders. Look how off he is on that particular phrase. So what I'm going to end up doing is cutting this region here. Command E, sliced it into its own region. It's already got its analysis markers. So all I have to do is apply the analysis, option 0. And this menu I'm getting is basically, we'll learn about this later in the month. It's under Event. If you go to Event Operations, here's all your MIDI features that you would use. I'm just using a quick key to get there, which is option 0. And when I hit apply, you're going to see these little guys jump over to the nearest grid value. It's going to jump over to the nearest 16th note, and I think that should be enough, but that should definitely clean up his performance. Let's listen back to it now. It sounded to me like it was a little on the late side, so I might have to pull that forward. Or I can actually show you that we can actually change these individual marker hits. Oh, I pray Pro Tools is not crashing right now. Sorry, I got a little death ball going, guys. I'm hearing from you guys. There's some dropout. There's audio dropout. Am I just talking too softly? Is that what's going on? Okay. Um, there have been some thunderstorms in the area. Most of them have cleared out, and that could be a possibility for why you're getting dropouts. I'm really not sure. Um, Sorry about that, guys. Well, it looks like I might have frozen Pro Tools. Let's take a look here. I'm going to try to force quit. Force quitting is Command Option Escape. And yeah, you can see that it's currently not responding. So something has happened, and that's probably why you guys got that weird intermission. And somebody's also reporting there's a delay with my voice. Now, that is a known GoToMeeting issue that should have been addressed on version 5.5 of GoToTraining. And that I have no control over, and I apologize, but I literally have no control over that delay issue at all. I'm going to have to go ahead and force quit Pro Tools here, and before I do that, let me see if I can go back and try to get a save out of this deal. I just want to try not to lose my work. All right, and we'll force quit. And hopefully I didn't lose all my work. Let's go back and see what I lost. You know what I could do that might you could prove there's no problem. Let me do this. Let me disconnect from our school line because I don't think I really need that to be addressed to you guys. Maybe that'll help with the bandwidth. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. That happens to be the platform itself. I wish I had more control over the weird delays you're getting with the audio. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with me, and it's really not FSO either. It would have to do with the actual GoToTraining network, which is not tied to FSO in any way. So if I had to point a finger, I'd have to point it that direction. Let me see if we got it here in our open recent. Ooh, it's not even in our open recents. That's not a good sign. All right, let's go back and see if we can find it. So it's in my music folder. It's in my Pro Tools folder. Egyptian over time. Should be this V2 that I was working on. Okay, let's see. What did I lose here? Well, we got the files in here. I just don't have the drum hits. I think I'm going to be able to recall where I got them pretty easily. Option semicolon. Back to the Mac drive. Under my users folder, John Barry. Music. Sorry, guys. Sorry about the delay here. Technical issues can and will happen, so let's see. Transport's kind of in my way for right now. We'll resize, and I'll go find it. So if I take a look under my sounds and samples, and under Avid Materials, I believe we switched it up, and I went to R&B Funk and Soul, went under drums, I went under funk drums. And we can see it's going to be one of these that I auditioned up top. I believe it's going to be one of these last couple ones. So let's take a listen to these. And I apologize that we lost those files, guys. I'll make sure that I save more often. But I can get us back to where we were pretty quick. That was our intro. of our funks. There's our B funk. And we'll go ahead and get them in here. Oh, take a look. While I'm doing this, I want to show you guys something here. Whenever you're naming a track, you just double-click the track name. If you want to name an adjacent track, instead of me hitting OK and then having to go double-click on the next track name, I can simply hold down Command and hit my right arrow key, and it takes me to that new track so I can rename it. So that was Loop A. Oops. And then I'm just going to copy this section here. Command C, arrow over, Command V, B. So to quickly rename tracks, it's really kind of nice in Pro Tools how you can just quickly set up your sessions real quick. We'll get my grid value down again. Remember we did, let's see, 4 bars here. Then we did A and then B. And I was showing you guys how to actually get some things to tighten up. And I was frustrated with his vocal performance here. So we were taking a look at his vocal performance. So let's actually get loop A up there and loop B. And we'll move them back in a second. Notice to move tracks, you just simply grab them and drag them. And then since I want to see these sitting next to each other, I'm just going to hide all the other tracks except for the tracks I want to see. Vocals, loop A, loop B. And then we're going to go back, and I was actually showing you how to retime things so that they're going to end up being tighter, because these two performances together were just altogether too loose. So what I had done was, we'll go ahead and we'll make these tracks a little bit bigger. I want all these tracks to, well, my top track here, I want it to be analyzed as monophonic. These guys, I want them to be analyzed as rhythmic. They're drum pieces. And what this is doing, you're picking the analyzation process so that when I hold down Option and go look at my analysis view, it's showing me where these individual hits are. So if we take a look at this, for instance, and I set my grid to 16th notes, you'll see I'm about to basically quantize this audio. I'll move it off to the side here so you can see what's going on. You hit apply, boom, all those little guys just slid over. We're going to do the same thing for this piece of data here. Apply it, boom, those are all nice and quantized as well. Now we had some issues with his vocals as well. So what I'm going to do, this is where we actually crashed last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back for this particular track to look at the waveform view. And I'm going to address the specific notes that I'm dealing with that are offending me. So in other words, I'm going to cut this out. That way, if something gets weird about this, it's only going to happen for this one piece of audio. What can get weird? The timing issues, because I'm about to do the quantization process to his vocals here. Remember, I didn't like the way these were landing. And you can kind of see why. I mean, that guy should really be there. And I'll show you why. And I can actually do it manually if I wanted to, but I want to show you this process first. So it's been analyzed as monophonic. We're going to look at its analysis process. Remember, this is a sustained held note. You're really wanting to get the attacks of the notes because you're dealing with the timing, so we don't need these guys. If you hold down Option and you click on any of these analysis markers, you will then be deleting them. You can also click to create them as well. If you hold down Control will allow you to create them, whereas Option will delete them. So in the event you need to make them or delete them, you know how to do it now. So since we're only dealing with the attack of this note, which would be the beginning of it, we don't need all these little individual analysis. So if I go ahead and I try to quantize this, we notice that I don't think it really did that good of a job. Let's take a look at which way it shoves it. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to revert back, and I'm actually going to do this manually. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I go back, this is kind of one of the other cool things about Pro Tools too, is the audio editing is just so incredible that sometimes you can just do it by hand anyways. I'm going to use this feature up here called Tab to Transient. With Tab to Transient turned on, any track that you place your insertion point at, once you hit Tab, notice it tabs along to these drum transients. A transient is a large spike in volume. Like when you smack a drum, you can see that's a transient from a drum. So you can also hold Shift and it'll make selections. So if that's the case, I'm just going to cut this guy up at every transient on his vocal. That looks all right. I'm going to deal with that one there. That one looks good. Cut it up there. Let's see if I can get one more tab out of it. Now, I went too far, so I can hold Option and hit tab. It'll take me back. I'll slice it there. Tab, slice, 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 slice. Now, why did I do that? Because let's go to the next transient. Cool, I'm fine with that. I already told you where I wanted this vocal to be, and I said it happened too early. Let's just pull it back. And in fact, I believe this guy really should have been there. And notice I've now trimmed over some information. And the reason I'm looking at this is I'm thinking about his note values and where he should have been landing on these notes. We could actually change this to a smaller note value, 30-second notes, get a little bit more leeway out of his performance. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm basically determining where he should have been landing. And I'm looking at these drum hits in conjunction with where I think he should have been landing. Notice this one, we could actually trim it a little bit, pull him back. So I'm just by using the grid, I'm redetermining what this performance should have been. Looking at his landings there. Now this is definitely going to change the feel of this performance, so let's go back and see how badly it affected the feel of the performance. So let's listen to it. We'll solo these pieces out. Actually, I'll just play it as is. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. We got a bunch of other drums going. Let's get rid of his original drums. Sorry about that. That wasn't very pretty. Original drums are still in the song, and they've got to go away. So, forgot about that. Hide and make inactive. I'm going to save my work, and let's listen again. Sorry about that. Oh, I just realized another feature that we did not change when we got started on this. We didn't actually change the grid. I believe the grid should have been 95. Ugh. I tell you what we're going to need to do. I'm actually going to have to restart from scratch. Because we got cut off and my session went down, that really hosed us. Oh, wow, I felt terrible. I'm actually going to start this session from scratch because any of the editing that I just did was to the entirely wrong grid. Not a big deal. Get ready for a fast session. I'll go ahead and open this one up. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I really hosed myself by doing all that with the wrong grid. I'll just go ahead and delete all these files. Shift-Command-U, Shift-Command-B, delete them. In fact, I'm going to delete all these tracks as well. I apologize, guys. That really stinks. I forgot to change that once my session crashed. We'll go ahead and we'll do that now, in fact. Control-click, 95 beats per minute, Coolio, import the files, and go back to the original folder. Music, artist remix, Egyptian, copy, Coolio. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. When our session crashed and I just started running from the fly, I didn't bother to take a look at the session's tempo. So anything I just did was going to be foobarred. Yeah, new track, good to go. Just to give myself a test run, I'm going to save my session. Tracks menu, cool. Great click track. Let's just make sure that it sounds right. Alright, cool. Everything's there. We'll go back, we'll grab those files, and we'll be off in a jiff. Sorry about that. That's embarrassing. Alright, I'll save my work, hide and make inactive. We don't need the click track anymore. We know that the grid's correct. Bring up my workspace browser. Go back and grab the same exact files. Users, John Barry, music, sounds and samples, Avid Materials, R&B and funk, drums, funk drums. If I remember correctly, I believe that was our intro beat. Cool, that's there. That was our A. That was our B. Cool, excellent. I'm going to go ahead and extend that window. That way I can use it later. And again, I like to be able to get to that window. So I usually just make a little space for it. And that way. Wow. I might have to play with that one too. That was kind of cool. All right. Let's expand the view of these little guys here so I can see those regions. The top one was our intro. Is it this one? Let's take a listen real quick. Yeah, that's intro. INTRO. Loop A. Allows me to paste them out real quick. Change my grid value, lock these guys into place. I don't know where we're going to use this big burly guy, but what I'm going to do is anything that I like and I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, I usually put it at the end of my session. That way I don't throw it away. Because I don't know if you guys listen to that, but that was a big burly loop. We put it actually in the song. Just listen to what it sounds like. We'll get rid of the drums entirely. Hide and make inactive. So save my work. We'll just listen to that real quick. That was a big drum sound. Cool. So it was the vocal piece that I was concerned with, and I also thought these funk drums were swinging around just a little bit. So what we've done is we've taken each of these tracks and actually asked for some analysis process to be done with them. And this analysis process that we're doing to these is a little bit more advanced for today, but I had to kind of address it because we had some real timing issues that were happening. And so I wanted to kind of show you what some of this does. So we're going to have these analyze them as being rhythmic, any of the drum parts. And then what I'm going to end up doing is we'll change the view of these tracks to all be analysis views so we can see those analysis hits. For right now, I'll go ahead and just select everything that's on these tracks, and we'll go ahead and just apply quantization for them. So cool, those guys are done. Those guys are done. Those guys are done. And we were dealing with the vocals. And the vocals I was doing by hand. Cool, this will really translate really well now because you guys will be able to see what it is I'm talking about. Where was it? This guy here. Here's where these late hits were happening. And just to really prove a point, let's actually set this track right next to this track so you can really see. We zoom in and take a look at it. I went ahead and I did this manually. So I just went in and cut it up. I'm going to save my work, make sure I don't lose anything that we've done so far. So I turned on tab to transient. I'm just using my tab function. Change my grid resolution just a little bit. Give myself some room to play here. Command E, cool. We're going to the next transient. Command E, Command E. So here I'm just doing it manually because I kind of want you guys to see visually what it is I'm doing and why this audio editor is so cool. And we'll do this very last transient here just to free it up. Now this whole part doesn't even really matter. You can see I could even create a small fade out on this and it wouldn't matter. And notice that I really want this to land here. He's a full 16th note off from where I want him to be. We can see that because my grid is in 16th notes. Let me save my work and we'll go in here and let's pull these back like you saw me do. And I never really got a chance to audition it because I had messed up the tempo. So we'll take a listen so you can see a little bit more about what it is I'm talking about. That I can deal with. That looks good. That needs to go there. And I just so hope that I'm right. I hope I have not done all this work only to find out that I've hosed myself. Let's see here. I have a feeling, though, that I'm right. That looks early, too. All right, so let's see how much of this vocal performance we've just changed up. Did you hear that? Let's go back so you can hear that. That's exactly what I was looking for. I was concerned that I might have been doing all that work for nothing. Let me just undo everything that I did so you can see this, all right? So this was the original, and this is where I was having issues. We have this funk piece here, and then we're listening to this. Listen to how the phrasing just doesn't work. I'll pull up the drums on this too so you can kind of really get a sense of how bad that rhythm is off. If I undo and we go back and we redo the work that I just did. Oop. Oh, dang it. I wonder why I didn't save. That's okay. I can sit here and do it manually. I mean, it's exactly what it needed to happen. It's really sloppy performance. Sorry, I can get in on the smallest minutia, but once you hear the results, it's pretty certain that's what needed to go down. Okay, this guy here needs to come up a bit, and you're going to go there. Is that right? Oh, it looks right. So if we listen back to it again, you hear pretty big difference here in this selection. Now, I know that needs to land there. This actually probably, if I wanted to do something a little more loose, we could probably do something like that. But you can hear the phrasing is definitely improved. Nah, it needs to be the way I've got it. Everything just sounds in the pocket now. So I might actually have to end up doing a little more of that as we go throughout the song because you can hear how loose that performance was. All right, cool. if I wanted you to hear the original, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to copy this to another track and just mute it for a second. So I'm just going to option drag it, and I'm going to totally mute that so you won't even have to hear it. We'll change this into a waveform view. Command M will make that grayed out so you won't ever hear that again. But what that'll allow me to do is let you hear the original, pull it back out, and you can see the difference between what I've got and what he's got. All right, cool. So it allows you to hear and see the difference between the two tracks. Actually, this looks like it's actually conformed to be almost what the original was. Okay, all right. Well, you get the idea. I tell you what, guys, I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions. I apologize for us flailing right in the middle of this, but I only have one other thing that I want to show you guys, and that's memory locations, how to create them and how to make them. It'll really help to stencil out your song to actually show the intro of the song, the first verse, the second verse, the chorus, the bridge, because you'll find that you'll be able to copy and paste big sections, especially like things like drums. You'll be able to reuse those in other sections. And so once you've got that laid out as a stencil for your session, it makes it really easy to go back and really start taking apart the song and putting it back together. Let me see if you guys have any questions so far as to what we've just been doing so far. All right, cool. So if you guys don't have any questions, we'll just go ahead and move forward. Awesome. What I am going to do too is, since I kind of cut into these pretty hardcore, I'm going to go ahead and create fades in between these. To create a fade, notice with the Smart Tool, the Smart Tool does several different things. The Smart Tool, if I go to the very end, notice it turns into the Trim Tool. Trim Tool allows you to trim a region. And it automatically, intuitively will turn into, if you have the Smart Tool engaged, which engages all these tools, it'll automatically change based off the position of where you are in the region. Notice it's turning in the Trim Tool again. So if you're on top, let me actually expand the view so you guys can see this kind of large. If you're up top, it's going to be your selector tool. If you go down below the halfway point of the region, it'll turn into the grabber tool, allow you to grab it and move it. If you go to a leading edge, it's going to turn into the trim tool. All right. And if you go to the upper right-hand corner, it'll become a fade out. Upper left-hand corner, it will become a fade in. If you go in between two regions down at the bottom here, it'll create a crossfade. So the tool itself, it changes based off of where you are on a region, on a particular region. The tool itself is entirely based off of where you are in a region. And I'm showing you that because if you take a look, see how we have these gaps that are going on here, and there's actually some hardcore cutting into waveforms. If you guys were in the same room with me, you would probably hear some pops and clicks. Chances are you're not going to hear them coming through the microphone of my laptop. Now, I could paste this all into one file, but it's going to paste those pops and clicks in there. So instead, I'm going to do Command F, which will allow me to do batch fades over top of everything. It'll create fade ins and fade outs of whatever I tell it to. I'm going to tell it 5 milliseconds. And then I can go ahead and consolidate it into one file, because basically what I just did, if I zoom in and show you what I just did, I'm going to zoom in here. I'll tab up. I'm using tab to transient again. With tab to transient on, notice I'm tabbing up and showing you right up at these little drum hits, there's now crossfades. That's going to get rid of those pops and clicks. So on that file that you guys just saw, I created little tiny fade ins and fade outs. That way when I consolidate it, I'm not consolidating in errors. I'm already consolidating in regions that were faded. So when I go to consolidate it, Shift Option 3, notice when I went to consolidate it, I selected an exact 2-bar increment, Shift Option 3. Oops, that was 2. it's now consolidated in one nice solid piece. Cool. And now all his phrasing is dead on. We've got it locked up with the loop itself. It's still got a little bit of that groove to it from it just being a funk loop anyways. But now everything's on the downbeat. We've got his vocals all locked up. It's going to start us off for a really, really cool track. Now what we really need to do is I need to go and let's show you memory locations, and then we're going to call it a wrap for the night. First of all, memory locations can be made on the fly. All you have to do is hit enter, and you can create memory locations on the fly. So while Pro Tools is playing back, you can create memory locations on the fly. If I change my grid to 1 bar increments, see how you can see I'm in grid mode. I know you guys learned about your modes in week 1. If you guys are not familiar with your modes outside of week 1, you're going to get really lost real quick. Just so you guys understand, you should already know all of the tools. All right, you've got your zoom tool, trim tool, selector tool, grabber tool, often called the time grabber as well. If you hear grabber and time grabber, they're the same tool. You've got your scrub tool, you've got your pencil tool. You also should know your modes. Grid mode is going to constrain the movement in any region based off the grid and then the user-definable grid boundary, grid value. Slip mode allow you to grab any region and move it anywhere in time. Grid is going to constrain the movement to the grid itself. Spot mode, anytime you go to move a region, your spot dialog will appear saying, hey, I want to put this at bar 15. Bar 15, bam, there it is. Oh, I don't like it there. Let's move it to exactly bar 8. Grab it, it comes up, tell it bar 8, bam, it goes to exact location. So the spot mode is really nice for putting things in precise and exact locations. Oh, you know what? We never actually did loop B here. It needs to, before I forget this, we need to go make sure it's rhythmic. Cool. Look at its analysis. Excellent. And select it. Option 0. Quantize. Okay, cool. So memory locations can be made on the fly. I'm going to turn down playback because we don't really need to hear Pro Tools blaring. But you can see here, while Pro Tools is playing back, if I hit the enter, the memory location window will come up and allows me to pick some options here. I'm not going to worry about these options for right now. I want to show you guys some things here. So I created a memory location, but you actually can't see it. And it's a marker, but we need to go show the markers. So check off markers. You can see there it is. Hit enter, and at any point wherever I hit enter, notice maybe I have to put in some information here. The playback head is going to actually be chasing ahead. The point at which I hit enter serves as where the memory location is going to be made. So it's back there. You could also hit the little plus icon here to make a memory location. Now, I've created some memory locations. How do you delete a memory location? You can grab a memory location, oops, and drag it up. Oh, I'm in spot mode, that's why. You can grab a memory location and drag it up. It turns into a trash can. Let it go. It's now gone. You can grab it and drag it down. It turns into a trash can. Let it go. It's gone. You can option click it. Let me make several more memory locations. You can also highlight over them in your ruler view here and then hit delete. So then what is a memory location? We can see it gives you a visual cue up within your ruler view here, which is great, but there's also other uses for memory location. Let me show you some other uses for the memory location. Well, let's say that you want to save particular views of your session, like maybe I want to see only my intro, loops A and loops B. I want to see these tracks, and maybe I want to see them a little bit larger than this, so we want to see them real nice and big. So when I go to create my memory location, wherever it is that I create that memory location, I'll go ahead and we'll create one here. So I hit enter. We'll call this location 1. I can also store my zoom settings, pre and post roll times, my track show hides and track heights. I want to do that because notice I've hid some tracks and I've resized some tracks. And I've also got things kind of zoomed to where I want them. So cool. And maybe I want to make another memory location, but I only want to see the original vocals. So everything else I don't want to see, and I want to have them zoomed out to a specific height. And I want that location to happen at bar 6. Typically, you're not going to set up track show hides for locations within the timeline here. I'm just basically showing you some options. Your next assignment that you guys will have next Sunday is actually going to utilize these memory locations. We're going to ask you guys to create them. We're going to ask you guys to make them. We're actually going to have you guys also edit or refine them. I'll show you what I mean about that in a minute. So let's create another memory location. And this one we'll call it Batman and Robin. Now, I gave it a silly name. The point being that you'll see these memory locations in another window here called the Memory Locations window. You notice if I click between these two memory locations now, it automatically switches to the views of those tracks based off of saving memory locations with those properties. Now, I could also have, let's create another memory location that shows all my tracks, or maybe some of these tracks will be miniature. So this will be micro. Oh, and maybe this one will be micro or small. Maybe we'll make this one larger. And maybe we also want to include into this location a selection. Notice I selected across multiple tracks here. So I want that selection to show up as well. So when I create this memory location, I'm going to change it from being a marker location to a selection-based marker. We'll keep these settings here of zoom and the track show hide. You can see we have this other location. So when we go through them now, it includes the track heights, but as well as the selection. Notice that it didn't create a marker up top here like we see for the first location and the second location. They actually showed us markers. You can see that they have the marker property here. You can see this last one has a selection base. That's a small icon for selection. So if we go to that selection, you can see it retaining the selection. I can also use my numeric keypad. Now, you won't be able to see me do this, so I'll be doing this off screen here. Period 1 period takes me to my first location. This is another reason why you want to have a full keypad. Period 2 period takes me to my second location. Period 3 period takes me to my third location. So what if in my first mirror location, period 1 period, what if I wanted to add a new track to this? So that means I would need to update it. So maybe I want the vocal to show up in this as well. But that means I now need to edit this location. If you hold down Control, you'll notice that a small pencil will appear. And notice that the lead of the pencil is pointing down, so it's in the writing position. Whereas if I hold down Option, a pencil appears, but it shows up with the eraser in the writing position, or like you're about to erase something. So this is another way of erasing, but within the memory locations window. So if I wanted to update that location, we want to hold down Control. It's in the writing position. Click on it. All the properties will come up. Maybe I want to change a property or not. Basically, before I'm going to cancel out of here. Before I update this location, whenever I go to update it and I Control click on it, everything has already got to be set because it's about to remember the new updates. So just keep that in mind. So maybe we'll make that track real small, whatever it's going to be. So we'll go to click on it. Notice it's in the writing position. Control click. We've now updated that location. So if we go to these other locations and go back to it, it's retaining the update for that memory location. So we saw how to create locations. And typically what you want to do is you want to do intro, verse, chorus. So we're actually going to do this real quick, and that'll be the last thing we do tonight, is I actually want to stencil out where the sections of the song are. Because I'm going to start using those markers up top for these loop sections to be able to just move them around real quickly and know where they go based off of looking at my memory locations that I'm going to create up top. So let me go ahead and delete the ones that are here. And let's start from scratch. So the very first one at the very beginning of the song, I always call this one my intro because we've got the introduction of the song. So intro. And the intro is going to happen up until the very first verse. I don't think this is the first verse. I think first verse is going to be here. But let's go ahead and let's just give it a listen.
she wanna walk, say she wanna walk, cause she tired of the 9 to 5. So me she feed me overdrive, and me keep her the overtime. My love keep her alive.
All right, so yeah, I pretty much nailed it where the first verse is. It's going to be this guy right here.
Say she wanna walk, say she wanna walk.
So we can just put our, as long as we're in grid mode, notice I can put the location right there, hit enter, and we'll call this verse 01. E-E-R-S-E 01. Cool. And I believe we could probably just by take a look and by the process of sheer mathematics, we could figure out this is probably going to be verse 1. We're probably looking at verse 2 through here, but we should probably listen to it just to make sure.
Say she wanna walk, cause she tired of the 9 to 5. So me she feed me overdrive, and me keep her the overtime. My love keep her alive, money she up on the side. Cause she love up me style and she love up me smile. Baby treat her so nice. Oh, say she wanna.
So let's see what we got here.
Yeah, let me see application. Let me employ you. You know you fit the official. From the first time I saw you. Let me see your application. Let me employ you. You know you fit the position. From the first time I saw you. She want to come by my side. But
I think this is our first chorus because it sounds like he jumped right in from verse 1 into the first chorus. So at bar 17, we're going to call this chorus 01. And by the way, I probably don't need any of these properties on. I'm going to go back and delete these off these others. I'm simply setting these up so I can see markers there. So chorus, which means I think if we plot this out over 8 bars, this should be our next verse. Yeah, so that's going to be verse 02. So enter, verse 02. And by a process of just taking a look at another 8 bars, we're going to be able to tell what where the next section is.
yeah, let me see application.
Yeah, so there's our second chorus. If you listen, it's the same piece as it says here.
Yeah, let me see application.
And notice that I'm just doing this based off just the number of bars. Since we have the grid working out at our favor, I don't have to really go back and audition that. Enter. This will be chorus 02. And go another 8 bars, and we should have another verse. So that should be here. It is, so let's go ahead and name it, and we'll move on. Select another 8 bars, and I have a feeling we're going to find our next chorus. Oop, this looks like a bridge section. Let's take a listen. And I bet he either goes back into a verse or a chorus, and then we're done. Let's see how many bars we have left here. That's probably going to be another verse. Yep, that's going to be verse 3. Oops, need to create the mirror location. And what do you know? We go another 8 bars and you know, I'd actually have to go back and actually listen to that. I think that might be another verse. Well, I'm not sure if that's actually the chorus. I'd have to familiarize myself with the chorus. I don't know if you guys heard that, but that one beat that I stumbled across, I just dropped in, kicked in right at the end here, and it just sounded wicked. I'm going to actually name this track Bad Beat. I'll play this back because you might have missed it. But, I mean, I've got the standard funk thing going, but then when this guy lands here, it's like bam. So let's listen to it so you can see what I'm talking about.
body. First time she ever get me drunk, yeah. Tell me from the first time she never wanted not to skirt. Do it from the front, then we get it from the back to girl. Her and her friend, she attacked. She said,
yeah, that was pretty hot. I think I'm gonna end up using that. That thing is beefy.
first time she ever get me drunk, yeah. Tell me from the first time she never wanted not to skirt. First time she ever get me drunk, yeah. Tell me from the first time she never wanted not to skirt. First time she ever get me drunk, yeah. Tell me from the first time she never wanted not to skirt.
Yeah, I really like that. You can hear where his vocals are off again in some spots. And once we go and tighten him up, it'll really, it's actually going to give that pop production to this, whereas it's that laid-back island feel. But this, once we slide the vocals over and pocket them a little bit better, this is really going to get cleaned up and start sounding cool. I tell you what, guys, it's starting to get late, so we got about 6 minutes left of class. I want to open up for some questions from you guys. And again, I apologize for losing our way through our session. And thank God we got back to some work here, and you're able to see this. One other thing I want to show you guys before we get started with questions, I failed to show you this as well. When we're dealing with memory locations, this is kind of cool as well. Let me call this verse 04 just for giggles right now, and I'll show you why. Let's say producer says, I'm going to go ahead and just have Pro Tools turn down real low. Let's say a producer says, hey, I want you to jump to chorus 02. Well, if I bring up my memory locations window, I can see that chorus 02, oops, why did I do that? I can see that chorus 02 is memory location 5. So I can simply click on it here, and it's going to take me directly there.
Let me see application. Make me employ.
So if I'm trying to get to a location really quickly, that's great. But notice you can also use, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this stuff in here. Let's get rid of those. I don't want those being there. I just want to show you guys how these work. So that one's saved. Let's get rid of them on this one. Cool, awesome. Now I've updated those. They don't have any of those other properties joined to them. Even while Pro Tools is playing back, it'll get to these locations really quickly and easily. So if I use my numeric keypad while Pro Tools is playing back, so we'll use the memory location 5. So memory location period 5 period.
Let me see application.
Period 6 period.
First time she
so getting back around through the actual session when a producer is talking to you as you being the engineer is really quick and easy once you stenciled out your song. Oh, you need to get to the bridge. Well, I see that the bridge is memory location 7, period 7 period. Bam, I'm there. So really, really neat. One other really good use that I use memory locations for is, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I can't be the only one that this happens to. Have you ever sat down with your instrument, whether it's keyboards, a guitar, and you end up coming up with a really cool riff? It's not a song. It's just like a little melody, you know, whatever that little jam is. It's just a little jam, a little riff. But it's got a little cool feel to it, and you know that it could be used in a song. Well, that's where you record it down, and then you just fit it into the spots here to see where it should be. Notice that I have sections here matched out in my session for chorus, verse. So you just take that section, record it, and fit it into these slots, and wherever it belongs, then all you have to do is figure out how to write those other parts. So it kind of simplifies music for you as well. If you've already figured out whether it's a chorus or a verse, or whether it's the bridge, well then now you know you only have to make 2 other parts. If I just made a riff and the riff happens to be a cool section for a bridge, well now all I have to do is then write a section for a chorus and a verse musically, fit it into the slots, and there you go. It's almost like painting for numbers, but you're doing it now with music. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out and actually being really patient, even though we had a couple of technical difficulties. And I just want to open up to the class if you guys have any questions. Yeah, not a problem. Absolutely. And don't be bashful to ask questions. Everything's on the table here. It's not a big deal. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Brian, thanks for pointing out that asset earlier. For anybody that did want the extra materials, and again, none of that materials has anything to do. Well, it'll still teach you Pro Tools, but it's not the direct materials that we would have you use. So if you were thinking about using those materials, use them as a secondary or to supplement the education. We're kind of steering you directly into what we're going to be testing you on, but they're still great materials. So thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that. Oh, good question. Yeah, all of our archives will always be under the announcement section. So if you go to the announcement section, you'll see last week's archive. I archive my sessions, so does Brad. There are 3 of them a week. Honestly, you guys don't have to attend any of them. The only thing that's really important that you watch, and it's definitely going to be testable, is going to be the lectures, the lecture material, and you see that it says required viewing because that's what you're going to be tested on. Of course, did I cover some of the stuff that you're going to be tested on? Yes. I just, in fact, I usually tell you guys, hey, you're going to be doing this, like the memory locations that we did today and showing you how to recall memory locations. Your entire next test will all be using memory locations. So you'll notice that we'll set up a scenario like you saw me do earlier where we only want you to see a specific set of tracks so that you can work on those tracks. Like I showed you guys earlier that we had set it up to where we had a memory location that just showed specific tracks. All of your Pro Tools assignments, your screen capture assignments, like you did and turned in last Sunday, will all utilize these memory locations. You don't ever want to delete them unless we ask you to delete them, because deleting them, it can't make you have a better score. There's no way. In fact, it's going to make your life terrible if you delete something you're not supposed to. Uh, So yeah, your archive you can find underneath the announcement section. Hey Kevin, yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thanks. I felt like I was stumbling a little bit tonight in a couple errors that I made, but thank you. I appreciate it. You're saying for on episodes only showing the archive for Wednesday and Thursday. Well, I updated it myself, so I'll go back and take a look at it. But I'm nearly positive only because at one point in last week it was not there, and a student had to point out to me that it wasn't there. So I actually did go back and update that. What section are you in? Yeah, all right. Let me take a look. Well, actually, it doesn't matter what section it would be. We go to the announcements. And that's published. So that one is good for group 1. Announcements. Ooh, wait a minute. Yeah, there you go. That one's published. Oh, really? Well, so far these are published. I think this one is the one that should have been published. Let's see. Let me unpublish this one. I think that one's the one that should have been published. I don't know why that could happen. Let's just unpublish and then republish this one. Weird. I don't know why anyone would ever do that, though. That is so strange. All right, yeah, I appreciate you guys pointing that out. I don't know why anyone would ever change this. It's a very odd thing for somebody to update. Well, nevertheless, I'm catching it now. I apologize, guys. Let's unpublish this one. Yeah, there actually looks like there was one published, but it looks like somebody went and published an old one after I had already updated it. I apologize, guys. I'm not sure how that gotten changed, but it's fixable. Section 5. That one. Unpublish. Oh, you know why, guys? They go away after a week. That's what's going on. Yeah, my pull date is why that's the way it is. But that's okay. I'll republish it real quick. I do know why it went away now, because I actually published it to evaporate on Sunday. I just assumed you guys wouldn't need it by the end of the week, so I went ahead and unpublished it at the end of the week. All right, so that should take care of that. I appreciate you guys letting me know that. And any other questions or anything you guys need to get ironed out, or maybe I went a little too fast this evening that you want to take a look at? Daniil, you're asking, will I be on iChat? Tomorrow I'm actually working. I'm not working from the office. I'll be working from home. But yes, I'll be available via iChat. So if you need to get me on iChat, not a problem. You know what? I tell you what. If you need, I'll go ahead and pop my iChat open now. I do have an appointment coming up. I believe I'll have to leave in about 10 minutes, but I'll go ahead and pop my iChat up now. That way, if you have something that you need to hit me up personally about, that's fine too. So let me get iChat running here. And of course, I've had two screens running, so I can pull my iChat off to the side. And that way we can actually have a private conversation that way. Doesn't look like it's actually taking.
Logged into rooms.
All right, guys. Well, I tell you what. I've gone ahead and I've launched my iChat. That way, if you have anything you need to get with me personally about, that's fine. I can hang out with you guys for about 10 more minutes. But then I actually do have an appointment to go get my hair cut, so I'll have to leave at some point. Yeah, I know you guys are thinking that's funny that I have a haircut after 9. Um, I have a girl that actually comes to my house to cut my hair, so I told her I had class and the class might run a little bit long, but hey Rodney, I'm up on my chat right now, so yeah, why don't you go ahead and hit me up? All right, guys, you guys have a great evening. I'll see you around. Take care.